Elon Musk. You hear that name, and what do you picture? Probably a visionary, right? A real-life Tony Stark, changing the world. But behind all that, behind the companies and the incredible wealth, is a guy so full of contradictions that he once actually said, "I'm not sure I want to be me." So what's the real story here? Is he a genius, a psycho, or is it something else entirely? Okay, let's get into it.
I mean, look at this. On one hand, you've got the idol. We're talking about the richest person in history, the guy behind SpaceX and Tesla, the figure people literally call the real-life Iron Man. But then you flip the coin and you've got the problem. A man with a personal life that's just famously chaotic, a boss so demanding that his own employees are terrified of him, and, a person who seems to be at war with himself. This is the central puzzle we're going to try and unpack.
And that leads us right into our first big idea. The Musk paradox. A life that is just defined by these baffling, extreme contradictions.
So let's start with the most obvious thing, the money. He was the very first person in the history of the world to have a net worth over $300 billion. That is a sum of money so huge it's kind of hard for our brains to even process it.
And this right here just perfectly sums up the paradox. All that wealth, enough power to buy a small country, and he chooses to live in this tiny 375 square foot box house. It just doesn't make sense, and that's really a running theme in his life. So you have to ask, where does this kind of extreme nature even come from?
Well, let's take a look at his family, because that might give us a clue. You could say he's got not-for-beginners DNA. His entire family tree is just jam-packed with adventurers and people who just did not care about the rules.
Seriously, check this out. His great-grandmother, Canada's very first female chiropractor. His grandfather, he won an absolutely insane 10,000-kilometer race all the way across Africa. And then, his maternal grandparents, in 1954, became the first and only people to fly a tiny single-engine plane from South Africa to Australia. So this risk-taking thing, it isn't just something he learned. It really seems like it's in his blood.
And this drive, this intensity, it started crazy early. Get this. After his mom punished him by not letting him go to a party, 5-year-old Elon just left. He walked for 2 hours all by himself, just navigating from memory to get there. That's not normal kid determination. That's a sign of something completely different.
So, with that in mind, let's explore the genius side of the argument. What are the obsessive, all-consuming traits that let him build not just one, but multiple empires?
Well, the signs were there right from the start. As a kid, he didn't just read a lot, he literally read every single book in his local library. When he got his first computer, he blew through a 60-hour coding course in just 3 days. And by the time he was 12, he had already designed and sold his first video game, Blaster, for $500. His mind was just wired differently.
But his ultimate obsession, the thing that would drive everything else, was born from a book he read when he was 10. This wild, completely impossible-seeming idea of colonizing Mars didn't just fascinate him, it became the single, unifying goal of his entire life, fueling almost every big decision he would ever make.
And that obsession leads to moments like this one. So back in 2002, he's in Russia trying to buy old, decommissioned rockets for his Mars mission. The deal completely falls apart. Now, a normal person would go home defeated. On the flight back, Elon Musk just decides, okay, I'll just build the rockets myself. That decision, right there, was the birth of SpaceX.
So he starts building. He needs a specific part. It's called an actuator, helps steer the rocket. He goes to a supplier and they quote him a price of $120,000 for a single one.
Musk looks at the problem, breaks it down to its core components, and says, wait a minute, this isn't any more complicated than a garage door opener. He tells his engineer to forget the supplier and build it in-house for just $5,000. And you know what? They did. That's his genius in a nutshell, refusing to accept that something is hard or expensive just because everyone else says it is.
But that exact same obsessive drive has a very, very dark side. So now let's flip the coin again and look at how it creates the demanding and, well, some would say tyrannical, taskmaster.
This is what he actually told Tom Mueller, his head of engine design, after Mueller said a deadline was just impossible. It wasn't a conversation, it was an ultimatum. This is the kind of management style that gets rockets built, sure, but it also completely burns out the people building them.
And his ego is, well, it's legendary. At an early Tesla event, the PR materials credited the company's CEO for the Roadster and just positioned Musk as an early investor. Musk was so enraged that he immediately demanded the PR chief be fired on the spot. So for him, getting the credit isn't just important, it's everything. Now for what might be the most telling story of them all. Just picture this. You've been working for 4 years straight. Your company's entire future is riding on what happens in the next 60 minutes. The very first Falcon 1 rocket is sitting on the launch pad. What is Elon Musk thinking about in that moment?
He's thinking about the next rocket. He pulls an engineer aside and just rips into him for not having already ordered the aluminum for a future rocket that hadn't even been designed yet. I mean, even in the most critical, make-or-break moment, his mind is relentlessly, obsessively 10 steps ahead.
And that insane intensity absolutely carries over into his personal life, which, can really only be described as chaotic. We're talking 2 wives, 1 he married and divorced twice, at least 3 other very famous girlfriends, and a total of 12 children. It's a level of complication that pretty much mirrors his professional life.
So, this brings us to the final question, the final equation. After looking at all the evidence, is he a genius? Is he a psycho? Or is the answer, a little more complicated than that?
Let's just lay it all out one last time. The genius, a self-taught prodigy with a vision for Mars, a brilliant engineer who's completely upended multiple industries. The psycho, a ruthless, demanding manager who seems to lack empathy, with a chaotic personal life who alienates even his closest friends and colleagues. The crazy part is, both of these descriptions are 100% true.
And that, right there, is the key. That's the main takeaway. The genius and the madness aren't 2 different things. They are fundamentally linked. You probably can't get the visionary who decides to build his own rockets without also getting the demanding taskmaster who pushes people way past their limits. They are 2 sides of the exact same coin. Which leaves us with one last big, provocative thought. To really achieve something on the scale that he has, colonizing another planet, shifting the entire world to sustainable energy, do you have to be a little bit of both? Is that just the price you have to pay to truly change the world?